Welcome to the Coffee Kids and Crazy podcast, a show about creating heart-to-heart connection with your kids. Your podcast hosts, Brittany Serple and Seth Dahl, are here to answer your biggest parenting questions so that you can become a powerful parent. So get ready for breakthrough as I welcome your hosts, Brittany and Seth.
All right, well, we're back with Coffee Kids and Crazy.
Yes, we are.
It's always fun when we do this because Seth comes and stays at the house and hangs out with Ben, the kids. I mean, I don't know if you realize
We stayed up so late
you
last
did
night
stay up
in the
really-
hot tub.
You guys had a long night, but
We did.
Lincoln ran out to greet you when you got there the other day, and my kids just love you. They just are so excited when Seth comes to town.
Well, I pastored Delaney for
You did,
a few years, and I don't think I had Addie.
You didn't have Addie because we
Definitely didn't
moved
have
before then.
Lincoln. He was too little.
But it's just fun. So
Yep.
we're having fun recording these. But we're gonna jump into, of course, our meme.
Yeah,
that's always
our meme.
so good. And
Yes.
so, well, it just starts us off with lightheartedness because sometimes we talk about some heavy stuff, which
Yes, we do.
maybe you'll offend and confront some things of people's busy schedules in a minute. Here.
I know this is good. You want me
Yeah.
to tell about the meme today? This
Sure.
one?
Yeah. Well, you have one. I don't have one.
Okay, so here it is. It is a picture of a gate, and there's a fence, but it's like got overgrown
cattle
brush.
gate.
It's a cattle gate, and a female cow, looks like she's got a full udder, has attempted to jump over the fence and is caught. So she's literally just dangling over the fence with her udders pointing forward.
It doesn't
and
look like either one of her feet are.
no, none of her 4 feet are touching the
Yeah.
ground. But so she looks like she can wobble a little bit back and forth. But then it says this: me trying to get over the baby gate without opening it. Oh, yes. Anyone else try to get over those baby gates
I
and
hated
get stuck?
those
I
things.
know.
Do you know how many times I've pinched this
Yep.
part of your finger?
Yep,
What is
that
in
hurts.
between your thumb and
The
your
little
pointer finger?
meat in there.
Oh, it's the worst. And then they got better. I don't know, they were just different design than the old ones that you always found at the yard sales.
Yes, and they're always just a slight bit too tall.
Yep. And for me especially, I have short legs.
Yeah.
It's like I needed a
not the
running
tallest
start.
person
I
either.
probably looked like that cow trying to get over it a couple times.
Yep.
Oh, it's bad.
I
All
love
right.
it.
Yeah. Well, why we talked about that meme is because it sounds like that cow was in a bit of a rush.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get over the gate, not
Something's-
open it, just pop over, got in a hurry. And
Which
that's
is
what we're going to talk about.
Usually what happens when you try and jump over that gate, your back foot catches it and the whole thing falls down and
Yep.
it hurts and you're screaming and now
And then the kids go wherever you wanted the gate to keep them
so
from
there's
going.
there's a rushing aspect that is not working in your favor.
Yes. And we talked about this in a previous episode. We introduced this idea of hurry and rush. But I first got into this when we bought our first cow. Speaking of cows, we got this cow, and the guy that sold us the cow grabs Lauren, well, I didn't grab her, but takes her aside.
Wrestles her down.
Yeah, he wrestles her down and says, listen, he goes, just so you know, with cows, slow is fast. And she came home and tells me, okay, when we work with cows, slow is fast.
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, what about kids? It's the same thing with kids. Like the more you try to rush kids, it seems like the slower they go. The more you relax and slow down, the more they speed up. And so it's just perfect with cows. But that's what we're getting into today is slow is fast, not being in a rush, not being in a hurry.
Which is hard to do, to not be in a rush.
Yeah.
Especially with kids. I know toddler season, if you weren't 15 minutes ahead of schedule, you're already late.
Yes.
Because getting them dressed,
Shoes,
eating or not eating,
Yep.
or everything's in a cup, which then eventually ends up on the floor in your car.
Yep.
But there's this having to take care of all these other people and all the things that you have to do, especially for that toddler stage when they can't really do anything for themselves yet.
Yep.
Move into older kids. They're a little bit more, they're capable of doing things, but
They
get distracted.
uh-huh.
Or I have a teenager who takes showers that are forever long. And when I go in there and we're supposed to be leaving, her hair's still in a towel.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, what have you been doing the last hour and a half?
Going nice and slow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard not to just create the expectation of a timeline for your family
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a
And
schedule.
timelines, yeah, of course, timelines and schedules aren't bad. We all need them. We all have to have them. But I think often we just get so stressed out, so pressured, so rushed that now we've introduced all this stress and all this
Mm-hmm.
anxiety into because we're so trying to hit that timeline
Yeah.
all the time. Like, yeah, okay, we want to be on time for church, so we need to leave at a certain time. Hey, we need to. Yeah, the other day I was trying to take my girl to youth, and we're supposed to leave in 5 minutes, and she's in the shower. She jumps in the shower. I said, "Babe, we're supposed to
Yeah.
leave in 5 minutes, and you just got in." And so, yeah, having timelines is good, but I think how we, it's like that thing. I think your dad said it. He's like, everyone has to wait. How you wait is whether or not you're impatient or demonstrating patience. So it's like this, like, hey, we all have to hit a timeline, but I can do this in a peaceful way, or I can do this in a super pressured, super rushed way. And we had talked about this.
At bedtime, I think was the example.
We talked about this at bedtime, just
Yeah.
being in a hurry, trying to get bedtime done, trying to get out of there to go do something else. But I pulled it up here in the Lord's Prayer. We all know Jesus said, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Some translations say, "Deliver us from the evil one." So it sounds like, hey, keep us free from the devil,
Mhm.
protect us from the devil, deliver us from the devil, the evil one, evil one, evil one. But the word actually means full of labors, annoyances, hardships, pressed and harassed by labors, bringing toils, annoyances, perils, a time, and then it's like a time of full of peril to Christian faith and steadfastness. But much of this definition of the word evil or evil one is more like pressed and harassed by the things you have to do, pressed and harassed by labors, by work, by schedules, by deadlines, pressure, 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 rushing,
Mm-hmm.
getting in a hurry. So in bedtime, we talked about that. And I said, sometimes we don't realize when we get in a hurry at bedtime to just try to get the kids in bed and then leave and go do whatever we wanted to do, we're actually partnering with evil because we're pressed and harassed by other stuff we need to do. So we're pressing and harassing our kids to get in bed or get in the car,
Yeah.
not realizing like that's actually evil.
Which sounds like disrespect a little bit to me.
Mhm.
You start to, my rush state, I can slip into my priorities are more important than my
And our
connection,
connection, yes.
which I
Absolutely.
then can introduce disrespect by I'm barking commands at you. I'm not being empathetic to needs that might be going on. I am disregarding any emotional state that's happening because of the agenda of my rush.
Yeah.
Which also sounds kind of powerless as well.
Yeah.
That I'm a victim to my schedule or my poor planning or my inability to position myself for this moment for what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Totally. And we all have those times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a perfect world, we'd be so locked in that it's like, oh yeah, we're always 15 minutes ahead of schedule. We have
always
so
present.
much time. We're always present. We're always there. Da 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 da. We're good. Like in a perfect world, we'd do that. But reality is like, oh man, we overslept 5 minutes, or we stayed up late watching a movie, and now we're all super tired and da da da. That's like, wait, how can I? Everything's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
How do I not freak out, not get in a rush, not get in a hurry, not pressure you when things aren't, when I haven't planned perfectly or I haven't woken up on time?
Where does that shift come? I mean, in a practical standpoint, when you have overslept, you've missed the mark, and now you're in the moment of rush. How do you get out of it? Or how do you
I think
almost repent of this?
Yeah.
I'm going to partner with the evil
Yeah.
in this moment.
Well, I think it starts with just becoming aware that we are.
Yeah.
Like if we catch ourselves and we go, wow, I'm fully like pressuring my kids. Oh my gosh, I'm disrespecting my kids. I'm prioritizing getting there on time versus our connection. I think becoming aware, all of a sudden now you're powerful to go, I actually don't want to choose that anymore. It's I think what happens a lot of times is we don't even become aware that we are doing that. And so we just keep going. But once it's like once you realize this is what I'm doing, oh, now I can decide not to do it anymore. And I can step back and go, hey, like one time I was getting my daughter in the car. I was going to a meeting. I don't know if I told this story before, but I'm going to this meeting that's really important. And I have to drop her off at preschool and then get to this meeting, and we're late. So I am pushing her to get in the car. I'm trying to help. The more I try to help, the more she goes slow,
Fast is
the more
slow.
she fights back. And I hear the Lord say, what's more important to you,
Mm.
showing up on time to that meeting or your connection with your daughter? And I was like, I just became aware of what was happening. Like, I'm breaking our connection to be on time because I'm afraid if I'm not on time, I'm going to get in trouble or it's going to affect me.
Or even your image to whoever
Yeah,
you're
my
serving.
reputation, my name, and it was an important meeting. And so, but I just stopped. Like, oh, this is more important. And I just let all the pressure go. As soon as I did, my daughter jumps in the car seat, starts buckling her belt. I help her. And it was almost like a miracle happened. Like the more I
The switch.
tried to get her in, the more she fought. And as soon as I stopped fighting, she just got right in.
Mhm.
And I texted the guy and I said, hey, I'm running a little bit late. One of those mornings, preschool. He's like, he had kids. So he goes, totally good. See you in a few.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I had all this pressure on myself that I was putting on her that didn't actually even need to be there.
Yeah. I think one of the key things I'm thinking of as you're talking about is when I live powerlessly and I'm just a victim to my surroundings, I don't have an awareness of the rush that I'm just partnering with, the chaos I'm living in. So it becomes this excuse, like you text this guy. So there's one place of rush where you give yourself permission to stay powerless.
Yeah.
And there's another part of the awareness of rushing that takes a powerful stance of, I'm going to intentionally choose something different. And I think the breakthrough, even in your story, happened immediately where God said, thank you for paying attention.
Yeah.
Here's some grace.
Yeah.
And your mindset shifts. Doesn't mean that you don't have to text sometimes, different things like that. But the shift of, here's my priority to protect something rather than me living powerless to something.
Yeah.
And just positioning your bedtime. I mean, I know bedtime for me always, if I'm trying to get to bed, it's going to take twice as long.
Yeah. I know.
Leaving the house. We don't have toddlers in the house anymore, but they're all distracted in one way or another.
Yeah.
So there's still that 10-minute warning, guys, that's happening. But I really do think there's an interesting piece of having a revelation of what your intentions are, what your goal is, and how that plays into powerfully living versus not powerfully living, and the influence of what rush could be for you.
If you love Seth on Coffee Kids and Crazy, then you'll love all of his other resources. Go visit SethDahl.com for online kids church, e-courses, blogs, books, and so much more. Go visit SethDahl.com right now.
Here's another thing that happened to me that helped me see kind of this. I was picking my kids up from school last year, and a lady comes out. I don't know what she was doing, another mom or something, and she goes, evolution should have given us more hands. Like, she's trying to carry a bunch of stuff. She's like, evolution should have given us more hands. And I get in the car, I'm like, okay, she's not saved, so she believes in evolution. And I go, I think there's a lot of Christians that would say God should have given us more hands.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I may have said that before.
Yeah, and I'm processing it a
unloading
little
groceries.
bit, and I feel like God's going, I gave you 2 hands on purpose. Potentially you don't need more hands. Potentially you need to stop trying to carry stuff I didn't give you. And it hit me like, oh, if I'm in a rush, if I'm in a hurry, if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm feeling like I'm dropping stuff or things falling, or I'm having to make too many trips, potentially I've picked up some things that he didn't actually give me to carry. And I can only carry so much at once.
Yeah.
And some people are stronger, so they can carry heavier stuff or bigger stuff. But I think it really woke me up to go, I think when I'm in a rush, it might be a sign that I've tried to pick up things I shouldn't even pick up.
Yeah. That's good.
Whether it's a side hustle or another sport or another activity that we do of like, "Oh, why are you so stressed and rushed all the time?" "Well, because we have to finish soccer here and then
Mhm.
get to gymnastics here, and it's the schedule just doesn't work." It's like, okay, well, maybe you've just added too many things to your plate
Mhm.
and you can't carry it all.
Yeah. I have a couple different coaching calls that come to mind even as you're talking where there's a desire to do it well. There's a desire to have peace in the home. There's a desire, but there's such a reactionary lifestyle that there's a rush at every response. There's not we've talked about this before,
Yeah,
a parent with a plan.
yeah,
And all I keep thinking about is we are literally taking too much that we shouldn't be. We need to focus on one thing at a time.
yeah,
So, and I loved how you just said there's people that are stronger than me. It really feels like there's I mean, I look at what I've built, Ben and I have built with our kids, the tools that we use. I'm really strong in the choices. I'm
yeah,
really strong in the one-liners
yeah,
because I have built up that muscle.
yeah,
So if we were to give the example of a grocery bags, I
yeah,
in one arm, if it's the tools, I'm pretty confident in my ability to hold a lot
yeah,
over here.
yeah,
But give me something else that I haven't used and developed. Give me something else that is still a work in progress. I mean, I have a teenager, so I feel like every single day I'm in the challenge of, okay, how do I give freedom? How do I give trust? How do I not control? How do I not get in the way? There's all of this I'm navigating
yeah,
as she goes into adulthood that is weak because I'm still developing it.
yeah,
And being okay with the reality of I'm stronger in some areas, so I don't have to worry about it. But I have to be aware of it.
yes,
There's an awareness that I have to bring to it.
yeah,
But I need to remember the strength that I have in other things instead of thinking I have the same capacity.
yeah,
Because our capacity is a lot of what rushes us into things. And I talk with these parents who are so desperate to change culture
mm-hmm.
in their house, but they are coming out of their car with all of the groceries
Yeah,
on their arms,
yeah.
hoping,
And then the bags rip,
and then they all rip and everything goes
and the milk's everywhere, and the eggs. Yeah,
and they're like, it's not working. This stuff sucks. I hate it. You say it's not working, and
yes,
you have to go back to one thing, master one thing, like develop some strength,
yeah.
and stop rushing yourself into
Don't try to pick all of it up at one time.
a place that you're not equipped yet for, which I really think a lot of our people that are listening want to develop this. This is why they're coming to us because they
Yeah.
trust us.
Yeah,
But I would say step back and really focus on one thing
yeah,
so that you feel like you've got a strength rather than a reactionary.
yeah. Well, we've talked. I'm sure you've talked to many people like this too, where you're listening to their whole deal, what's going on, and they're asking like, "What do I do here?"
Yeah.
And you kind of go, "How's your connection?"
Mm-hmm. They don't
Like,
want to talk about that.
no, it's like,
Don't ask me that question.
Like, tell me another tool, tell me another thing
Yes.
to do. It's like, actually, if you just backed all the way up to place number one,
Mm-hmm.
connect with your children. Like,
Yes.
what's their love language again? Oh, words. When was the last time you gave them a affirming word? When was the last time you said, "Hey, you're an awesome kid"?
Yeah.
When did
Yeah.
you say that last? And connect with them, because you're looking for a tool to override
Mhm.
your lack of connection.
It's
But
an
you
easy
might
button.
not even, it's an easy button, but you might not even need that tool if
Yeah.
you just had connection. Or you would need it a lot less because you're connected and your kid responds to you completely different simply because, but it's that one thing is like, you're trying to do all these other things. You haven't done the first one.
Yeah.
You haven't done the one that's important, but you're trying to do 4, 5, and 6
Always.
always.
I think if we just camp out on this connection piece for a second, because every conversation is, okay, this is what's happening. What do I do?
Yeah.
Depending on how consistent I am with this client or this person I'm talking to, or how much I know, I can gauge what the first question is. But it is, what's your connection? And nobody likes that because it requires us to slow down.
Yeah, because connection requires time, not just quick.
No, it's not
Here's my tool, do it.
It's not a drive-by hug. And
It
we're
also comes
connected.
back to the whole like, are you using these tools to try to control your child?
Hmm.
Because if you're still holding on to control,
And manipulation.
you're manipulating your
Hmm.
kids with these tools rather than, hey, maybe you need to back up and stop trying to control everything and watch what happens if you would just let go of this.
Yep.
Put the control down
Yeah.
and see.
Which is so revealing. If I can't put the control down because I'm afraid what will happen, then I am absolutely using these tools for control and
Exactly.
manipulation.
Yeah.
If I can put it down and turn my heart towards my kids and lean in and say, how connected am I with your heart? Then I can influence you by having a conversation rather than having a million tools that I'm throwing at you, hoping for you to make quick adjustments.
Yeah.
But influence really comes through this place of connection. And I mean, we joke about the evil eye and all those different things. But if I'm truly connected to you now with my kids, because they're older and not toddler stage, but even when they were toddler stage, it was the tools worked because we worked on the connection.
Yeah.
And here we are, 16, 12, and 9, and they still work because of the connection we put as a
Yes.
priority over here. And every single stage and development and season and hardship and everything that's been amazing, the priority's always been connection.
Yeah.
And being willing to pause and stop makes these tools a secondary resource because my first resource is that I'm connected to you.
Yeah.
But that means I got to pay attention.
Yes.
I got to slow down.
Slow down.
Tortoise in the hair. You got to
Yep.
be the tortoise.
Here's one thing too that I've been thinking about lately with this is the difference between growing something and building something.
Mm.
And I think with our children, sometimes we're trying to build something.
Yeah.
So we like get the hammer out, we get the nails, and we're like, come on, just follow the plan and build, build, build. Like that's cool if you're building a shed. But we're trying to grow something in their lives. We're not just builders,
Mm-hmm.
we're gardeners.
Yeah.
And sometimes people say things like, if it's not growing, it's dying. Sure, if it's not growing, or growth is a sign of health, and
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, but sometimes we trying to grow things so fast that we don't realize weeds grow really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to rush things, we're trying to hurry things, we're trying to drop Miracle Grow on them or chemicals on them to get this thing to grow. Or we're like, wow, look how fast that's working. Oh, it might be a weed. It might be a weed that's going to choke out what
Yeah.
God has. And it's because you're rushing the process, you're trying to speed up the process, you're trying to treat the garden as if it's something that you can just build and put together, and all of a sudden there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this takes time to grow, and if it's growing too fast, it may not be very healthy.
Yeah.
And so slowing down, taking our time, connecting with our kids, putting control down, removing the anxiety and the pressure, getting the evil out
Mm-hmm.
of our relationship with our kids.
The evil of rush.
The evil of rush, of being in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation with Delaney about making sure her garden in her heart doesn't have just a bunch of pretty weeds.
Yeah.
Because the illusion that there's growth because it's flourishing doesn't mean that it's actually something that's productive and able to be used.
Yeah.
Even though it might be pretty. And that's what it feels like happens, is it feels like there's growth. It feels like there's something happening.
Yeah.
But I can't actually use any of this. I can't eat any of this. I can't reseed it. I can't give it away because it's actually just taking away from my life rather than producing and giving something good. And
the things I can give away and can eat and can seed, this is going to choke them out.
And it doesn't create space. So I think a challenge after all of this conversation would be looking at your garden. What's been popping up, what's been growing, and which maybe a good indicator to do that is, are you looking for control? Are you looking for connection?
Yeah.
If these tools and resources are your go-to in a situation rather than checking the temperature of connection, then that might help you see where you are, and really trying to make a shift of growing something that you can give away to your children that creates nutrients for them. So that's hard challenges, but
hard.
this one's, we're poking at you a little bit today. We're not trying to be mean, but it
Yep.
is, if you want this culture, you have to be willing to look at the crap that's in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're leading from a crappy place, I can guarantee you won't produce much that's great.
Yep. You know, one last thought I had about growing stuff. I went out the other day, me and the kids were outside. We have a live oak,
Mm-hmm.
and we have two huge oak trees. We have 3 huge oak trees in the back, but one is kind of off to the side. And then in the front, we have this one live oak tree. Now, in the back, I've worked really hard. Like when the acorns drop, I have this little thing. I try to pick them up. I don't get them all up. So sometimes,
Yep, they take little roots.
well, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, but in the front yard where the live oak is, we just left it, right? I literally have like 200
Oh my gosh.
tiny,
Oh my
like
goodness.
3-inch oak trees growing, live oak trees. And I'm
What are
like,
you going to do?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no grass. There's no grass there. There's just leaves
Oh, man.
growing. And I was out there and I go, oh my gosh, if you don't intentionally pick up seeds that drop, they will start growing. They will plant. It's like they planted themselves,
Yeah.
took root themselves and grew. And for me, it was going, I need to pay more attention to the seeds that are dropping and make sure I'm pulling up whatever I don't want to grow. I
Mhm.
better pull it up,
Yeah.
or I better pick it up before it plants itself and starts growing. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is our life. We just sometimes we're just like go on with our life and we don't realize like, yeah, that tree just dropped a whole bunch of acorns, and if you don't actually pick them up, they are going to grow. And
Mhm.
so checking that garden, looking at what we're growing, looking at what seeds are dropping, looking at what's hitting the soil, picking it up, because right now it's hard to get them out.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing is
you start to
you
pick
can't
it out.
just you
We
can't
have
just
oak
pull
trees
them
yet.
out. I could have picked them up when they were on the soil, but now
Mhm.
that they're in the soil, they're not coming up that easy.
Yeah, well, and that's the difference between something that takes root and something that doesn't.
Hmm.
Is once you give it permission to take root in your life, it's harder to get out.
Yes.
So
So don't do that.
pick up your
Pick up the seeds.
acorns and
Pick up your
seeds that you
acorns.
don't want.
Grow what you want to grow. Grow what God is planting in your life,
Yeah.
not what's just dropping from
You not paying
around
attention.
you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, slow down.
Slow down.
Be intentional. Pay attention to
Connection.
the connection piece, and be willing to get it wrong. I would say that there's been lots of getting it wrong, but I feel like you find a consistency and a sweet spot, and then you find hope, and then you get to build on that hope when you start paying attention to this, and that's how the culture changes and shifts. Is I have hope for this. I've made enough mistakes. I know what we don't want to do, and
Mhm.
I've had enough success to know what we do want to do. So I'd lean into that, and we believe in you, and we know that you've got this. So
Yep.
we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. Never miss an episode of the Coffee Kids and Crazy podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. That's it for this episode. We'll see you next time.